Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Moving Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Zoe Taylor, real estate agent in St. Louis, and also founder and CEO of Moving Medicine Partners. We are an organization of physician spouse realtors serving medical families as they transition from residency to retirement. We do it because we've been there, we've done that, we get it. We just want to be able to be alongside you the way that maybe we didn't have when we were doing our transitions. And I'm excited today to have this guest of honor on. Ryan Garson, I know very well. Every time I go to New York City, I manage to bump into him, probably intentionally. I love hanging out with this guy. Ryan, hi, how are you?
Great. Yes. It's fun hanging out with you in New York City as well.
The Big Apple. I feel like for the rest of the United States that hasn't visited New York, New York's kind of intimidating. It's glamorous. You see it in the movies, high traffic, high condensed amount of people, but the energy's good. I
Yeah.
love that you're there.
I love it. I'm the biggest cheerleader you're going to find for New York City, the energy, the culture, the history, the food. There's always something to do, the music, Broadway, Central Park, Hudson River, East River, sunsets. I mean, it's great. I love living there and I love selling real estate there.
How long have you been in New York City? Your whole life?
No, I'm originally from Florida, from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I've been in New York for like 12 years. So I've like been there when like all my Florida friends went back to Florida and like I'm here in the city, but I'm making my life. I have a 6-year-old daughter and I'm here for the long term.
So you're married to a physician.
Correct. Yeah,
How long have you been
my
married?
wife, Corolla, is
Yeah.
ER physician. She's at Brooklyn Methodist. And I met her at an open house when she just moved here to do her fellowship in ultrasound. And it was like my second month in the business. And she didn't like the apartment I was showing her. So I'm like, oh, I can help you find the perfect apartment. She's like, great. I'm going to go to lunch. Could you show me a couple of apartments when I'm done? And I'm like, whoa, well, usually I need 24 hours, but let me see what I can do. And so I like pulled a couple showings together. I met her at this address. On my way there, I like lost my phone. So I'm borrowing her phone as we're walking up the stairs, calling my phone. And then there was these pigeons that flew through the staircase and she hates pigeons. So she didn't even see the apartments. I ended up finding my phone. We saw another couple apartments that day. She's like, yeah, wasn't for me. I'm like, all right, like give me 24 hours. Let me, put together a tour. I'll find you the right apartment. Over the next like few days, I was like on the apartment hunt for her and she saw another apartment without me and it had a red door. So like every apartment that we saw, she would like compare to like the red door apartment. Oh, it was so much bigger, or it was brighter, or I like the location better. And so I'm like 30 apartments in this tour. And the last one I had, I had a good feeling about this. I'm like, I think this could be it. And so she walked in, it checked all the boxes. She loved it. She starts hugging the door. And
The door.
she signs the lease the next day. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to have a housewarming party. And I'm like, thinking in my head, she really doesn't know anybody here. She's got to get furniture. I'm like, this housewarming party will take forever. So like I invite her out with some friends and yeah, then we became a couple. And that was my real estate love story.
Real estate Hallmark movie love story. I really like that. You are also, in addition to a husband and a father of a 6-year-old in New York City, which I think is really cool to be raising a kiddo in New York City. And I want to hear more about that in a little bit. But you're also an entrepreneur, a business owner outside of real estate, correct?
Yes.
That's awesome. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I've always had this entrepreneurial mindset. When I was in college, I started a promotion company and like ran all the clubs and bars in Tampa, Florida, where I went to school. So I got paid to party when I was in college. That was fun. And I leveraged that into another business right after college. I opened up a high-end puppy boutique and we ended up franchising that, opened up 10 plus locations. I sold that when I was 30, moved to the city because I had like a short-term job opportunity. And I ended up having like 4 or 5 jobs over 2 years trying to figure out like my next step. I was like in a midlife crisis at my young 30s. And then I got into real estate and I loved real estate. And I've really taken this like entrepreneurial mindset to real estate. I really like run my business like a business. I have a 8-person team, 2 full-time staff members, an operations manager, a marketing manager, and I also have a marketing agency called Very Social, which happens to be my brand. And we are a marketing agency for real estate professionals. We handle everything from social media marketing, email marketing, content creation, content writing, and AI customization.
And you can crank out some content, Ryan. I think that you've got a new reel every day, and I'm like highly impressed with what you're able to come out with creatively from that marketing perspective. And I think that translates well when you're selling people's homes in the city because you've got just this like artistic eye for thinking outside of the box, which has been really fun to see how you've marketed and listed a lot of those really nice high-end homes and otherwise. I like the creativity and the approach that you always take on those.
It's all about storytelling. I feel like I really, first and foremost, always try to like showcase the home that I'm selling, but like make it fun, make it entertaining, tell a story.
So someone moving to New York City for a physician position, coming to
Mhm.
Manhattan, they know nothing and no one. What's like the first piece of advice that you give someone relocating to the city? Like how does that conversation start?
With physicians, the proximity to where they're working is really important. So I feel like kind of like zeroing in like on a neighborhood that works for them, transportation that's easy. Maybe you don't need to be in the same neighborhood as where you're working, but like it needs to be easy accessible. So each neighborhood has a different vibe. Uptown is like more like family friendly. Downtown is more like cool and chic. It's also more expensive. So it's really like asking the right questions, learning more about them, learning more about their lifestyle, and then guiding them from there.
You mentioned Uptown's more family friendly. What's it like raising a kid in New York City? I mean, maybe you know nothing different because that's the only place you've raised a kid, but I feel like a lot of people are wondering like what's the family
Yeah,
dynamics and
I
lifestyle like?
love it. And I'm from Florida. So like I have all my friends that I grew up with that are like in the country club lifestyle, going to the golf course or tennis court and riding golf carts to their neighbor's house. I live in vertical living. My kid knows apartments. Like she doesn't really know houses. The other day I was like walking on the street with like a few families. We had like a group play date and like all the kids were kind of like walking ahead and there was a garage. And she's 6 years old and she knew to like stop, look, make sure there's no cars going and like kept on walking. Like she's a city kid. Like she's got certain instincts that I think you just grow up like being in this kind of culture. Like she's taking the subway, she's taking the bus, she's walking. She's just got a certain hustle to her. I think by being in the city, she goes to great restaurants. She goes to the best museums. She's around a lot of diversity with all her friends and the adults. I think she really knows how to communicate really well with adults. I think it's just a great place to raise a kid. Not easy, very expensive. You're probably going to have to like sacrifice, maybe you might not be able to go, on the vacations. It's also a lot of people have probably more than what you have. And I think, really kind of like staying in your lane and like not having that like more effect of like, oh, she has a bigger house or he's going on vacation there or they have this car. I think in New York City, you'll find real quick that somebody always probably has more than you. So I think really being humble and being inclusive and being a good person are like the morals that I've really like raised my daughter and like honestly the school. Like I feel like there's a lot of schools, there's a lot of options, and each one kind of has like their own identity.
How does someone select a school? And then also the schools there, are they public, private, paid for? Like what's the anticipation with the schools? And like you said, you can choose. How do you choose?
So there's public and private, and there are great public schools, some of the best in the country. And then there's some really not so great public schools. If you are zoned in your neighborhood for a school, you automatically get in, but there's like a list of like 10 schools that you can apply to, and you can get into schools that you aren't zoned for. So that's one option. And then there's the private school option, which honestly, my daughter's in private school. That's kind of what I know best. Also, very competitive, not easy to get into. You have to apply. She was in pre-K at the time, took a couple of tests. I feel like honestly, it's really like they're interviewing the parents. I felt like I picked my school based on like the community that I wanted to be in, because I feel like, as you have, especially like young kids, like you tend to hang out with your friends' parents, or you want to hang out with your kid. And it's more fun if like the parents that you're hanging out with are fun too. And I wanted to like really find a school that I felt like that the parents kind of had the same like morals and idea for success and ideas for education. And like a lot of these different schools, like there's like pressure cooker schools that are like academic focused. There's same sex schools that I think are great options. I feel like more liberal schools, there's more conservative schools, there's schools that are really like focused on the community, there's religious schools. So you could really kind of like dive in Montessori schools and like find like what you feel most comfortable with. And then you have to apply and kind of get lucky and hope to get in.
Get lucky. I mean, that does make sense when you have such high density population. I'm sure there's vying for some of those preferred
Oh yeah.
schools. You mentioned earlier, just to kind of switch it back to something that you said earlier about, you may not be able to afford the neighborhood close to your work. We think of typically a physician's income being a commendable one compared to most of society, but in New York, that dollar doesn't stretch quite as far. What kind of expectations should people put in place for what it is they're going to be able to afford on a physician's salary? I mean, like, is a single family home even like possible somewhere? Or are you looking more at your co-ops and how does that play out?
Yeah. I mean, New York City real estate's expensive. Yeah. Single family home, unless you inherited lots of money, you're probably looking at like $10 million plus. That's a townhouse. And like single family that's like detached, I don't know. Good luck finding that.
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
thinking. Like, where's
that's
that?
even more is probably like a mega mansion. I feel like the majority of apartment buildings for sale are co-ops. There's townhouses, there's co-ops, there's condos, there's rentals, and then there's affordable housing. Those are kind of like the makeup of the housing in New York City. If we're going to focus on buying, I would say 60 to 70% of the buildings are co-ops. So that means you're not buying in a home, you're buying like real property and like you own that home, or with a condo, you're buying that condo and you own,
The
real
unit within
property.
it,
But
right?
with a co-op, you're actually buying shares in a corporation, just like you'd buy shares in Meta or Apple or Amazon. Each apartment is appropriated like a certain amount of shares based on the size, the floor. Since you're buying in a corporation, that corporation is made up of a board, and that board sets the vibe of the building, the tone of the building. And what I mean by that, they set like the rules. And so some of the rules could be like pet policy, sublet policy, who could buy into the building, are pied-a-terres allowed, are parents buying for children, is gifting allowed, is co-purchasing allowed, how much down could you put? Like I would say on condos, you can do 90-10, you could do 90% financing. Not all banks will lend on that, but you can do that. But where there's some co-ops on like Fifth Avenue that are all cash. I would say the majority of co-ops are usually like 80% financing, 20% down.
And so, like, with our audience being physicians and the anticipation of using 100% finance physician loan, co-ops don't give you that option because there's rules and regulations typically set by the board that won't even allow that option, right?
Correct. Yeah. So they set like all those terms, but I think also additionally, they could decide if you are accepted or not into the building.
It's like, I don't want to say Mean Girls Club, but there is like a vetting, like they socially vote you in based on your personality, more or less, right? Am I wrong?
Based on
That's
really
not
your
allowed to be
like
said.
on I think a big part of it is your financials, reference letters, professional, personal, but they're looking at, your tax returns, your bank accounts, your credit score. And we as brokers really have to like paint the picture as like the ideal tenant, the ideal like shareholder for these buildings. And sometimes we might look at your financials and say, you know what, this is just not a fit. You're too tight. The two big financial qualifications that boards look at are called debt to income ratio. So it's like your income divided by your debt. Usually they want to see that like under 30%, like ideally like 25%. And then they want to see at least 2 years of mortgage and maintenance, like in post-closing liquidity. So after you put down your down payment or you purchase the home in cash, they want to see like 2 years of like maintenance or mortgage and maintenance if you're financing.
So even if you buy cash, they still want to see some sort of reserves, more or less, that you
Exactly.
have
Exactly.
available.
Because I think their biggest concern is like they want you to continue to pay maintenance. Because if you don't pay the maintenance, then like, the neighbors are going to be picking up that bill.
Does that intimidate buyers? Like when you're doing a buyer intake, someone's relocating to New York and they're trying to understand the landscape. Does that conversation
You know
tend
what I
to
think
intimidate some
really,
people?
especially for physicians, is like the sublet policy because I feel like they want to have some sort of flexibility. Like maybe they go abroad for a year, or maybe they don't know if it's going to work out. And like sometimes there's no sublets at all, or like it's like after 2 years, you could sublet for 2 out of 4. So you could sublet for two, and then you can't sublet for another 2 years. It has to remain empty, or maybe a family member could move in, or you have to sell. You're kind of like forced to sell earlier. So it's like less flexibility. So yeah, I think that's always a little intimidating.
What's the rental market like in New York City? Like, is it fairly obtainable to find rentable apartments and for
The
physician
vacancy
income?
rate is under 2%. So there's not a lot
Wow.
of inventory. It moves really fast. I would
For
say
anyone
it's
listening,
like,
that's crazy low. Like, that's insane.
yeah,
That's basically zero.
I would say there's like a 30 to 60 day window. So like right now it's like January, let's call it January 1. So if you're looking for like June, I would say you can't really start to look till like middle of March because there's not going to be anything available. Like it's a quick turn. So like
Yeah.
right now, the beginning of
Anything
January,
that's listed right now, they're not gonna hold it vacant until you get here until June,
exactly.
unless you're
So like
ready to
right
sign a
now, the
lease
beginning
and
of
start paying
January,
for it now.
I could get a February 1, maybe March, definitely not April. So it's like a 30 or 60 day window. It's very quick and it moves quick. My advice is have all your paperwork ready to go.
Are there stringent rules and restrictions on the rentals as well for how much income they have compared to what the rent is? Like, does it have to be
So
like
now
3
it's 40
times or
times the rent.
it's how much?
40 times the rent. So like for math, like I would say the average like one bedroom is probably like $5,000, like 4 to 5,000. But that means if your apartment's $5,000 a month, you have to make $200,000.
A year. Okay. Not a month,
No, 40 times the rent.
per year. That
Yeah.
makes more sense. I was thinking you meant like 40 times per month. I was like, wait a second, that makes more sense. So 40 times what the monthly rental income is for your annual salary to qualify. Are there credit score rates that they have to consider? Because sometimes, like physicians coming out of training or something, the credit scores aren't as good.
Usually doctors, they have great employment letters. But yeah, I mean, if they have bad credit, that's not good. Like the landlord could reject you based on whatever, or they might look at one application versus another and go with the one with the better credit or more money in the bank.
I agree. I feel like that's like across the US though. That's just not a New York specific thing. I know that ways to get around that sometimes are to offer to pay if you are able to, like if you're getting a sign-on bonus or something, if you can pay a full year, 6 months rent up front. If you have a bad credit score, but you're paying for your full year of lease, that is one way to circumvent being rejected due to your credit score is having like a larger amount of cash on hand and just giving that all up front. But yeah, it's hard to explain when you're, fresh out of training with a lot of debt and have been managing paying debt with debt for a while. And now you're finally in this income. But to tell a landlord, like, I'm good now, like it was just a setback. So I think having someone like Ryan instructing you, like, what exactly you need to have completely documented, ready to go, so that whenever the time comes and you can start applying for those apartments, like you've got it all at your fingertips and you're not being delayed in sending things over since they go so quickly. I know that you're Manhattan, but how often do you see people jumping ship and like going to Jersey City?
Yeah, so I focus on Manhattan. I do some
Yeah.
work in Brooklyn. My wife works in Brooklyn. But yeah, I mean, I see families leaving all the time for the burbs. So like New Jersey, Westchester, Connecticut, Queens, little bit, like Bronx, not so much, like definitely Brooklyn. It's less expensive in Brooklyn, but it's a much more competitive market in Brooklyn. Brooklyn's really hot. Then there's the Bronx, there's Staten Island. People are always leaving. I feel like you can get priced out of Manhattan real quick.
But if you can stay there, it's an experience worth living.
If you can
It's
stay there,
so
it's
fun.
amazing, but it's a lot
Yeah.
of work. It's a hustle. You kind of always have to like be thinking. You just got to be on. But the food's great.
The bagels are great. Okay,
Food's
so one of
on
my
the
favorite thing about
bagels.
Ryan, which I miss so much, is he went through this great phase of doing bagel reviews where he
I
was
still
like
do it.
giving.
I
Do you
still,
do it? Where is it?
of course.
Oh God, of course you do.
Every month they do a bagel review.
It's every month. Okay. I love his
Yeah,
bagel reviews, just so everyone's aware. That's like my
yeah.
favorite
If you
thing to
want
do
to
when I'm in New York.
DM me, if you ever come to New York City, you want a bagel recommendation, I got you.
He does. He does. It's awesome. So you said that your wife works in Brooklyn and she's actually commuting from Manhattan, from the city. Is that
Yeah.
common, or is it usually more like
No, people think she's crazy. Yeah,
that does
she's got
from
like
an
a
outsider
45
sound a little
minute
crazy?
to an hour commute, or she takes a car. It could be like a $40 or $50 Uber each way. But she like loves her hospital. She's been there for 12 years. She loves it. Can't, doesn't want to leave. So I'm like, there's hospitals like in our neighborhood. She loves where she works.
I love that for her, though. Good for her. I think that hospital culture and who you're working for and who you're working with is like such a huge indicator of happiness and contentment with your job. We talk about like physician burnout all the time, and it can be from the commute and being worn down from that. But it sounds like if she likes the atmosphere and the people that she's working with, I wouldn't fix what's not broken, if
Yep.
it's working for her. All right, I'm going to pivot a little bit more because recently Ryan came out with a book and I want him to talk about it because he, serves his clients in Manhattan buying and selling real estate. He has very social broker that he's got this organization that he's helping with marketing, but AI, you talk about the book because I think that it's
Yeah.
really cool what you've put together and the resources.
So I wrote the book, The AI Agent. Did you get a copy of this book? Can I know you a
I
copy?
bought a copy of the book.
Oh, you bought a copy. Oh, wow. Thank you.
I know.
It's my playbook on everything AI. So I took a couple of courses. I really went through like the AI rabbit hole. And I think it's just so interesting. And I've incorporated it into my business. I feel like the main areas that I've really incorporated is like probably writing is number one. I've always kind of haven't been the best writer. So I think right off the back, like it's the best editor. I used to use Grammarly before ChatGPT and Gemini, but I love custom with ChatGPT. So I have trained all of my custom GBTs. It's almost like coding. I've trained the GBT to do exactly what I want. So I have a couple custom GBTs that I use. Like I have sales, I have marketing, I have video scripts, I have home evaluations where it used to take me an hour and a half to do an evaluation on a home. Now I can do it in 10 minutes, and I have business planning, just to name a few.
What's the one thing that has benefited you most as a real estate agent? And then also, what's the one thing that you think benefits your clients the most from you outsourcing more or less parts of your brain?
I really big into like, I like talk to the AI. So like I voice memo everything, and then it usually like translates it and edits it. So it's like writing an email that used to take me like 20 minutes. Now it takes me like 1 or 2 minutes. But the home evaluations I think is really good because I've created this custom GBT that has all of the data. Like it has like probably 20 years worth of home sales. I'm updating it like every month. And I just could like really like break down like what's going on in the market, forecasting. I think what's really like a new agent couldn't come in and like do what I do. Like I feel like I'm already a knowledge broker. Like I know so much about New York City, about how to make deals, about inventory, about pricing, about negotiating. And now you just put that with AI that like is a tool that just allows me to be so much more clear. I think communication is so important and I'm a great speaker, but now that also translates like on paper, like just the timelines and the communication and the feedback and like I could be so much more clear. I feel like you don't miss a beat, nothing gets lost in translation. I think the communication is just really like leveled up.
Yeah, I love that. Like whenever you have a high level about information and you're trying to convey that to someone that doesn't have that base knowledge, you know what I mean? You're almost speaking a foreign language to them. I think that AI gives this wonderful way to translate to someone in lay terms to be like, okay, like this is my brain dump of everything that I know, everything that I want to convey, but you might be speaking in terms that just don't sync with who it is that your audience is, but you can tell ChatGPT or whatever, like translate everything that I just said in a way that's going to help them understand so that they can have the same knowledge, but at their, level of being able to take it in. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it's a wonderful way of like being able to teach your client. I think that one of my favorite things to do, especially with new buyers and sellers too, is just to educate them, inform them. I want them to know what's happening before it's occurred. I want to teach them my job so that they can feel comfortable and confident when the next step approaches, like, oh, we already knew this was coming. But to be able to do it in a way through ChatGPT that like is so structured in a way that can communicate, you're not overwording, you're not skimming over things that you think that they should have basic knowledge on. It really does kind of compute everything over to them in this really wonderful way that gives them the tools and education that it is that we're trying to give to them.
Exactly. Another tool that I love is Otter AI. So whenever I meet with a client, I always want this Otter AI on because it's such a great note taker. It'll take all the notes. It'll have like whatever we talked about. It'll have next steps. Like I could never take notes like that. I feel like I was always like a step behind on note taking. And I think that that's always really, really helpful. You know, I could just put it into one of my GPTs, like my sales one, and say, hey, follow up with the notes on this last meeting that we have. And it just like, it gets it and it could break it down.
I think it helps you stay more engaged with the conversation too. If you're talking to a client and you're like, okay, what it is that you're looking for and why, and let me get to know you so that I can understand the purpose of you moving and what it is that you're looking for so I can connect you to a neighborhood. It used to be that I was like sitting there scribbling down notes. I'm like, okay, 2 bathrooms, 1 bedroom, like proximity to whatever. But it's like almost like I can't stay fully engaged and communicate in the conversation because I was so distracted with the notes that I was making sure that I wasn't missing. And now that there's these things, and it sounds creepy because it's like you're recording our calls. There's no audio recording. There's just like a summarization at the end that gives you, I think is how Otter AI works. That's how the technology that I use, Plod, works, is there's this really cool summary at the end of a call or a conversation that just takes your notes for you. It's not me recording your voice or anything like that. It's a note taker. And it gives you a list of like, hey, in the conversation, it said you were going to follow up with them in 3 days about something. And it'll give you that like reminder and its prompts at the end, like, hey, just don't forget in 3 days, you said you were going to email them about whatever that is. So it's just a really cool technology to help you so that you can stay more focused and present and engaged with your clients.
And I also love a good teleprompter. I use AI. And so I will have an idea. I'll voice memo my idea for a script. It'll give me a good script. I created a custom GBT that knows exactly how I talk, I sound, how long I want my videos to be. It'll give me my script. I put it in the captions AI, and then I read off the teleprompter and it uses AI so it doesn't look like I'm reading it. And then I usually do some sort of like background or B-roll, not where I'm like a talking head. And so a lot of the content I've been doing has been with the teleprompter, and it's allowed me to create so much more content faster.
You
Like
don't have to
think,
record, re-record, re-record. You can actually be reading it and not like have
yeah.
your
And it's
eyeballs
like
moving across the screen.
really, like I put thought into the script. It's like actually a really good script. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't say it better myself. Like, and I like learned how to really read off a teleprompter and make it like mine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I mean, I think that agents that are forward thinking, some people are afraid of AI taking over our jobs in all career fields. I mean, even medicine, there is some fear of AI like overstepping and like taking the place of human, which I don't think that that's ever like going to be fully capable of doing. But I think leaning into it and utilizing it as a tool, not as a human replacement, but as a tool. It's a tool in a tool belt that
It's a
allows us
great
to have,
tool. But it makes
yeah.
it so much more efficient and saves time. And lastly, I create agents. So AI agents are like automations. So I have this one agent that I created. I asked it to scan all of the papers, the New York Times, the Real Deal, Curbed, Inman. It scans like all the papers. I probably gave it like 30 different news outlets. And I said, give me the 10 top real estate headlines that I can create content on that like are in my wheelhouse, that are like New York City related, social media, AI, luxury real estate, celebrity. Every morning I get an email from my agent that has like the topic, a summary, like what kind of content I can create on it, the link to the post. Then I just respond to which article I want, and it gives me Instagram script, a TikTok script, a LinkedIn script, 1,000-word blog, and a 3-minute YouTube video.
That's a lot of brain working on your behalf. That's amazing. That's an immense
Yeah.
amount. Like if you were to just source seeking out the information and then tailoring down the content and then creating the content and like that's an
No,
immense
I
amount of
told it
information that you
exactly
can
what I'm
be.
looking for in the news. I want you looking
Mhm.
through all the sources of news that I like to look at. I have a couple more agents that are doing some automation for me too. So it's all in the book. It talks about the agents, the teleprompter, the custom GBTs, Otter AI, plus more. And I wrote the book.
Ah,
You ready for this?
with AI.
I prompted AI. I started at 8 p.m. I finished at 4 a.m. I used Perplexity, Claude, Grok, Gemini, and ChatGPT. I had my screen going of like moving from one to the next. I was doing research in Perplexity and Grok. I was writing it in Claude. I had my custom GBTs as like a master editor. I was asking Gemini to give me their opinion on it. So I wrote it in pretty much one night. I then reread it the next day, had a ton of edits, especially the stories. Then I voice memoed like all the stories. And then I gave it to my copywriter who wrote my first book in 2021, The Very Social Broker. I said, humanize it. And 3 weeks later, I was in print. And it took me a year and a half to write my first book. It took me 3 weeks to write this book.
Well, it took you one night
Yeah.
and did some
Well,
edits.
it took me, no, I had some edits. Like it took me
Yeah, no,
more
that's
than one night,
amazing.
but I literally had the idea that day and then like wrote the book that night. And then I like worked on like refining it and making it better.
I am an avid book reader. Like I don't watch TV. I'm either sitting in silence in my home or I'm reading a book. I read books all the time. I do read some like self-help books, but like rarely. I mean, I'm reading for like disassociation from my life, right? I wonder how many people are writing books like, hey, I have this like random idea, and then like our chat GPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, ing it and getting them published that quickly. It's kind of sad, but also that just does mean that I can consume more. So I don't really know how I feel about it. My consumption rate is high. It's bad. There's worse
Well,
things though, right,
you
Ryan?
could, yeah, you could be consuming YouTube.
No, not that brain rot. Not today. Not that I don't scroll Instagram reels mindlessly from time to time, but I really try not to. I can't help. It's just like brain rot. All right, Ryan, what else? Parting words of wisdom. I think that anybody coming to New York City, I think that you can see the value of a team lead, an entrepreneur, someone forward thinking and outside of the box. He really is so creative in how he serves his clients, how he leads his team, how he runs his businesses. And the fact that he can wear all of these hats and still show up as a very present dad and husband because he's outsourcing a lot of these things.
And a
I
very
love it.
social broker. I really want to be front facing. Like that's what I'm about.
Yeah,
Like I'm really about connecting with my clients. I love working with doctors. Like I get it. I speak their language. I feel like the doctors that I work with, the relationships are really deep. Like I feel like we have a lot of commonality. I get the lifestyle like as a real estate agent. And when you created moving medicines, like I was like, I got it. That makes sense. That's me. Like I want to be around other realtors that are married to doctors. I mean, this is what I love to do. I want to, help physicians make the transition to the city that I love.
I love it. And I think people should love New York City because it's just so much fun. It's so much. I go
Did
twice
I
a year,
take you to that
Ryan.
cool,
The new
bougie,
Ritz rooftop bar.
Ritz
Man, that was
rooftop with those
amazing.
views?
Yeah, if you are heading to New York City, the newer Ritz rooftop bar was absolutely stunning, gorgeous. And the drinks, you kept getting that smoked drink thing. I don't know. It was beautiful. It came out like just like a big ball of steam. It was
Like a
beautiful. And
flower, sort of
it was
flower.
smelled like flowers. I don't even know. It was so good. The bathhouses, I didn't know how much I would love the whole like bathhouse scene. That
Oh
was the
yeah,
most
that
real.
house scene
I
is
was
great.
by myself. My
Yeah.
21-year-old daughter left me stranded because she went to hang out with her friends because she lived there for a year. So now
I
she
actually ended up going to that one.
to that one that I went to.
Yeah,
Where
but you
was
went to
that?
Air, right?
Yeah, I went to Air. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
so
So that,
good.
that was a new location. I usually go to the one in Tribeca, but I went there. It's
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah.
Did you cold
It's
plunge it?
yes, I was like in such a zen mood in that place. I sat in the cold plunge for like 3 minutes.
Wow, impressive.
I know. I mean, I was like completely disassociated and
Wow.
didn't even feel it. It was the crazy. I think that's the longest I've ever been in a cold plunge, but it was because I was just like so relaxed. It was so nice. And I got a massage. The whole thing was just lovely. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you so
Okay.
much for joining us today. You're a wealth of knowledge. For anyone that wants to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way to find you? I'm going to have all of your information.
Yeah, you can email me at ryan.garson@compass.com, or you can find me on all my socials at Very Social Broker.
Very social broker. That's TikTok, that's Instagram. He's all over the place. You can't miss him. You have a wonderful day, and we will chat soon. Thanks for being a
Okay.
guest.